everyone, welcome back to Primetime Crisis. It's time to talk some more Legends of Tomorrow. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Jayson.
And Jayson, what is the title of the episode that we are talking about today, sir?
Outlaw Country.
Yeah, we got a Wild West episode.
Mm-hmm.
Get to see Jonah Hex again, and I don't know if you saw the Western episode from last year. Because I mentioned that they were going back to the Wild West again, and you were like, oh, they did that before, so I don't think you saw the other Jonah Hex episode.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
You don't remember it?
Yeah.
Do you know Jonah Hex from the comics?
No.
No? He's so he's the guy with the messed up face.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And in the comics, he is from this time period, and sometimes winds up in other time periods. But a lot of the time, if we go back in time or we do flashback things in the Old West, he'll pop up. And this whole story with Turnbull is more or less the comic book story, the kind of origin for Jonah Hex.
Yeah.
So, what did you think of this one?
I think it's cool, fun, and funny.
You think it's pretty funny?
Yeah.
What was funny in it?
Where the Stein has a headache thing is really funny.
Yeah, not intentionally, but...
Yeah, because, like the girl thing, I obviously really want to know who that is.
Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's consequences from last episode, which I honestly did not think we would get. I guess I have to give the show props for that, something that we should expect it to be a given, but isn't, and of course... With things like, I keep bringing this up, but with things like destroying the Shogun warrior from a few episodes ago, and that doesn't change history in any way. I didn't necessarily expect, and also Stein meeting his previous self and not having any glitches in his memory or any issues where things are being paved over before. I really didn't expect this to happen. It is certainly a token consequence, but I'm glad that we're finally doing something with, okay, we're altering things in the past we're creating other aberrations in order to stop aberrations. So it's silly the way it's being played and how long it's taking him to his memories to get replaced, considering how sometimes things happen, things get changed immediately, and sometimes it takes time to change, but at least we got something. At least they're throwing us that bone. So that's so I guess that's kind of good. Jayson, I actually thought this episode was really fun.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. It's still silly. It's still preposterous. The whole thing is still built on a faulty premise, but I actually really enjoyed this one. I thought everybody was excited to get to go back to the Old West. For whatever reason, this is a time period that the people making the show, and I think all the actors really like going to. So if this whole show was set in the Old West, it would be a better show. I really think that. This has all that energy that I was excited about from the first episode of the season, where I was like, okay, if we could just... Because I enjoyed that episode too, even though it's still dumb, but I mean, like, I wrote down fun, dumb, loud, energetic, comic booky, cartoony, escapist. Like, that's what this show should be.
Yeah.
And when it tries too hard to be about deep, heavy issues, it falls apart and it doesn't work, because that's not the strength of this show, and that's always handled kind of superficially. Mm-hmm. Do you want to start going down some of your notes?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
The beginning is like the pilot from Lost.
Why is it like the pilot from Lost?
Because...
okay.
No,
I told you. So Jayson got this from me. It's not that it's like the TV pilot. It's that the guy who plays Turnbull is Jeff Fahey, who plays the pilot in Lost. The airplane pilot, the guy who flies the airplane, not the one who crashes it in the first place. That's Matt Parkman from Heroes, but the guy who was supposed to fly the plane and was changed at the last minute and is actually on the island in the last couple seasons. That's Frank Lapidus, one of a lot of people's favorite characters in that show. He's hilarious, and he plays Turnbull in this, and so that's why I mentioned the Lost pilot. That's one of the reasons I enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I think this is a better Jonah Hex movie than the Jonah Hex movie, which is not hard. But I like this Turnbull better than the movie Turnbull. And I always really liked that actor in Lost, and I think he makes a really great bad guy. He plays a rough and tumble, but good guy character in Lost. And here he's Jonah Hex's arch nemesis. I would not have minded him being a regularly recurring villain somehow. Especially, again, if we could just make this whole show a Wild West show. I'm starting to think maybe that's what we ought to have done. But anyway, yeah, he's fantastic. I think the whole villain plot in this is, again, wonderfully comic booky and a lot of fun. Trying to create Turnbull territory. I thought that was kind of fun, where history gets changed and they see the map, and now there's Turnbull territory, and the idea is the aberration is created by a time pirate that loses a piece of technology that's stolen by Turnbull, who kills him. And he finds this mine full of dwarf star. Now, I don't know where the dwarf star comes from. I don't know if that's a terrestrial metal or not, because the Atom talks about it as, Ray talks about it as being really rare.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that doesn't sound like something that would be on Earth, and it's like an impenetrable metal. It's basically like vibranium or like adamantium.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was kind of weird that there's like a whole mine full of it. But let me talk about the dwarf star for a second, if I could. So we find out that that's what powers Ray's suit. And I don't know if we had that before. I think he might have mentioned that in Flash or in Legends somewhere. But I thought it was really strange, because I keep complaining about how he thinks he can't be a hero because he doesn't have his Atom suit anymore. I'm like, well, why is there no talk about making a new one? Oh, it's because it's powered by this like microscopic amount of dwarf star. Why doesn't he just say that? Like that explains the whole thing. I mean, even still, I would think, A, you would build a suit and wait until you find some, and B, you have a time machine. So you can make a pretty good case to Sarah, hey, let's go someplace where nobody will ever find us. And like, maybe this is a bad idea, but keep in mind that, again, we are not that worried about butterfly effect in this show, and we're constantly going back to different time periods and monkeying with things just for the fun of it, and the script allows the future to not be messed up at all. So I could kind of see a case made in this show to Captain Sarah Lance saying, hey, could we go like way back in the past, like to prehistory, to a place where Gideon could tell us that there's a little bit of dwarf star, so that I can power my Atom suit and so that I can be more useful to the team. Because Sarah has this really frustrated moment in this episode where she's like, how are we gonna deal with Turnbull? All these people are out of commission right now. And like we can't even use Firestorm because of the headaches and difficulties that Stein's going through. So yeah, you'd think she might be all for that. So, but at the very least, we should have mentioned the dwarf star thing is the reason he wasn't building a suit, because I did not understand that. Yeah. But that ends up being the impetus for Nate's character arc in this episode, where he's gone from being completely vulnerable to thinking that he's indestructible. And I kind of like the idea of the discussion here of the difference between courage and just thinking you're indestructible, so not being scared of anything. I think that was actually handled pretty okay for this show.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some other of your notes, Jason.
Okay, they go into the Wild West.
That's right. Mm-hmm. We were talking about that.
Yeah, and they found the dwarf star, like you just said.
Oh, I should have just waited for you to mention that note. No. Okay, I'll just base all the rest of the stuff that I'm saying off of your notes. Go ahead.
Stein has a headache.
That's right. We talked about his headache, and we talked about the paradox. I think what we're looking at here is a time paradox love triangle. So we have Stein and his wife, and whoever it is that he is finding that he's in love with, because history has changed in some way, and he's getting flashes of this person. I think it would be hilarious if we had an entire love triangle that was totally off screen except for Stein. But the thing I wondered about that was, again, faulty premise stuff. He says there may not be any what is his wife's name, Clarissa, to go back to. Isn't that something they can check on? Like, doesn't Gideon have the ability to look in the future and show video of things that have changed whenever aberrations mess up things in the time stream? I don't understand why he can't just check on that and find... I mean, I guess he's trying to keep his visions a secret from everybody but Jackson once Jackson finally gets him to tell him. And the only reason he even convinces Stein to explain what's going on is because he finds out enough about it from Gideon. So I guess if he went to Gideon and started looking up things, other people might find out about it if they happened to talk to Gideon. But that's the only reason I can figure that he wouldn't do that. We keep doing things that should change the future, and might not knowing even if the future is changed. We have to assume that it's not, because it's not affecting Flash or Arrow. But it's really strange that after we go on a mission to fix a time aberration, we don't check the future to make sure that we haven't screwed anything up. You'd think that would be kind of part of the charge, because then you could just... There's nothing in the show stopping us from going back and fixing things. And that's part of the problem, is that there aren't really a lot of stakes in the show, partly because nothing is messed up that we don't want to be messed up, except for when we're trying to create drama and contrive a premise for a story, but also because there's nothing stopping us from going back and fixing anything that we ruined. Something I haven't talked about enough is this notion of being time police. Jackson says time janitors last episode, as if that's like a lowly, demeaning job or something. That seems like a really worthwhile, heroic endeavor. It's not the same thing as taking out the trash. But anyway, we always go back right after the thing that is the impetus for the aberration in the first place. What is stopping us from going back and stopping the person who started the thing that ruins time, that changes something in the time stream? I don't understand that. So we have a time pirate at the beginning of this episode that ends up dropping a piece of technology that makes it so that Turnbull takes over a bunch of this area of the United States. Okay, why don't we go back 5 seconds earlier and stop him from dropping it? It's not like they don't know what caused it. They know there's a time pirate. So anyway, what else have you got, Jason?
Turnbull is trying to get Hex.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And they have a history, and he murdered his family, and Hex wants revenge on him for that. One of the things I really actually kind of like about this episode is some of the pairings with characters teaching each other something and finding common ground. The Sarah and Hex relationship I like quite a bit. I kind of wish Hex could be a part of this team for a while. I think putting him on the ship would be a really fun idea if we could contrive some reason to do that. I like that Sarah is, and I mean, like, this is well handled for this show. Very often, nobody seems to have enough historical perspective to me, where they understand that the sensibilities of a time period are different, and we haven't socially evolved to the point that we have now. If we want to think of it as social evolution, we haven't changed to that point. So in 1870 whatever, you're not going to have the the gender equality, of course, that we do now. I think Sarah handles this better than I've seen it handled in the show, where she understands that Hex is a product of his time, but still doesn't back down and insist that, no, she is the captain of this ship, and he's going to have to deal with working with a woman, and he's going to have to look at this as a different circumstance where she's not just a woman, she's Sarah Lance. She has all this training, and she was a member of the League of Assassins, and she's and she also understands everything that he went through. So by the end of the episode, he looks at her, of course, very differently and as very capable, and she's and probably won't look at women the same way after this, because this is a thing that he probably would not have run into without Sarah Lance coming from the future. That was handled quite a bit better than I might have expected it to be, and I wouldn't have necessarily thought, I mean, I guess the revenge thing is pretty obvious, but I think those two are more kindred spirits than I might have expected, and that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
What else have you got?
Nate is going by himself and turning into steel and stopping a train.
That's right, he stops a train. Jackson has a ridiculous line in that scene where he says, because, so what happens is, Turnbull shoots, I think he's trying to shoot at Rory and at Mick, and then Nate stands in the way, and this is part of this courage argument that I kind of like, actually, where it's not really courage, because he doesn't know that bullet is made of this metal that can go through his body. Mm-hmm. So he stands in front of Mick, again, I think it's Mick, and it doesn't actually bounce off of him. So that's not courage, because there's no fear, and that's the kind of obligatory lesson line at the end. Change is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. So after that, he's terrified and like, oh, I don't think I could ever bring myself to do that again. And then at the end, he stands in front of that train. Well, Jackson has this really silly line where he's like, well, the train is loaded with that stuff, and it, as a bullet, went through you last time, so what makes you think that you can stop it as a train? Well, it's not a bullet train, it's a train moving at the regular speed of a train from this time period, so it might be heavier, but it's not like it makes the train more indestructible or more dangerous to a guy made out of steel that would stand in front of it and try to stop it. I thought that line was absolutely hilarious. Oh, well, it's full of the dwarf star.
Yeah.
So it's gonna kill you, dude. Now, at the same time, he doesn't know if he's gonna be able to stop the string because he's never tried anything like that before. He's had things bounce off of him, but he probably doesn't even know how strong he is. So it's still courage that he's displaying, and I don't think it's quite as insane as they're acting like it is. It is a strange reversal where what I would expect the show to do would be to have him do something absolutely mad that he ends up getting away with and doesn't get hurt or killed because the script says so. What it actually is everybody acting like it's more insane than it is, and him doing a thing that I kind of imagine Steel would be able to do, so that's cool. We get to see the costume at the end. Mm-hmm. Ray has built him a costume.
Yep.
I don't know when he had time to do this. He's just like Cisco, where he can make anything he wants to make in like 35 seconds. That's the reason that I thought before it was ridiculous that he hadn't built the Atom suit yet. And even still, okay, like in his spare time, because I guess all he needs is a couple of minutes, he should have built the Atom suit and then just gone and looked for some Dwarf Star.
Yeah, when there was the new team up, mm-hmm. Cisco and Ray mm-hmm. should be fighting together.
You think so?
Yeah.
Or maybe build something together?
Yeah.
Of course, you have a whole lot of, at that point, like, brilliant scientists and inventors. Mm-hmm. Or at least a couple. I think, yeah. Yeah, because then you have Shine there, too. And
yeah.
Mm-hmm. You want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah.
The setup at the end for the big crossover? Mm-hmm. So at the end, Sarah just goes, oh, we gotta go back to 2016. Our friends there need our help. Once again, it's hilarious that our characters in the show are moving forward in present-day real time. Why didn't they get this message at any other point? It's like time is for them moving at the same rate and stuff as the characters in 2016, shouldn't all of time be happening simultaneously from the perspective of someone outside of the time stream? I know I've made this point before, but I just think that's absolutely hilarious. Like why now? It was really nice of Barry and Oliver and whoever sent them the message to go help them out in the future, to wait until they finished this mission, because that's not how time would work. It seems like they should know about this as soon as they jump to the time stream. But then I have the same problem with just the aberrations in the first place. You know, when you find out that that something has changed, it's like, okay, but why now? Like it's a bunch of different time pirates. There should just be like a list of aberrations that happen, and then you go stop them all. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, you have anything else?
The last one is there's a new Stewardess.
Mm-hmm. And we talked about that a little bit. I think it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a good suit. Let me see if I have anything else I wanted to talk about. I think that's about everything. Well, we didn't talk about Mick and Vixen. I actually like that pairing a lot. This idea that Vixen is going to try to teach Mick to master the monster inside. I actually really like that idea. I hope that doesn't turn into any kind of a romance. I have a hard time imagining this show putting a guy and a girl together and it not immediately turning into a romance. I hope that doesn't happen. It's what I like about it is that it's real Vulcan. It's like a stoic person who has kind of mastered their emotions, and she's not exactly Vulcan, but it's a little bit similar. And she's gonna help him to balance his kind of innate angry side that comes from his experience and his I like this idea when she says that he is naturally he says, I am an animal, and at first she says, no, you're not, and then at the end she says, no, you are, but you can control that. You don't have to be that. There are two sides to your personality, like there's two sides to everybody. I never thought that Mick would be the most sympathetic character in the show. And, I mean, I think he's my favorite character. And also the most naturally evolving character in this show. You know, he's gone from being Kronos, the time traveler, bounty hunter, or assassin, I guess, from first season, all the way up to now, like, really caring about his friends, putting his life on the line, saving them, but at the same time having this conflict where, well, he does want to watch the world burn. We're to a point where we can't use that line without thinking Dark Knight. I might have tried to go for something else. And this is not to say that this is not that this is a great script, or that there's not still a lot of kind of cringeworthy one-liners and stuff, because there are. There's another thing. Oh yeah, this was a silly line. I wrote this down in Jason's notes. When Ray finds out about all the Dwarf Star, he says, there's enough here to power the whole Wild West. To power it? We're not even using electricity. What does that mean? To power the Wild West? It's just, so, there's some dumb lines of dialogue like that. Overall, though, I actually really enjoyed this episode. Yeah. This is probably the best of the season.
You mean Vixen is like to power?
No, she's definitely better than T'Pol, but, yeah. Anyway, so that's going to be it for us today. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll be with you again next week. We're going to have the big crossover pretty soon, and I'm going to talk about all 4 of those episodes together, unless they play like separate episodes, because I don't know how that's gonna work yet. They're playing it like they keep saying 4-night event. They're playing it like it's one big story. I'm hoping it is. It's going to be interesting, by the way, to see if each of those episodes feels like an episode of the show that it is, or if it feels like one big long story where all of the feels of the episodes are tonally are kind of all integrated. Like, I wonder if Supergirl is going to be a Supergirl episode, or if it's just going to be the first part of this 4-part thing. But anyway, so I don't know if Jason will be with us for that, but he might be. We haven't decided yet.
I'm gonna be for the Legends one, I think.
Like I said, though, we're going to do one video about all 4.
Oh.
Me and Masco. So we may have you there for that, too. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Sure appreciate it. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Jayson.
See you next time.